All right, so the thing that you need to know is with right triangles or special right triangles, when you're dealing with sine, cosine, or tangent, you have to have kind of the memory of what happens. So Sohcahtoa is a way to remember. People come up with little rhymes for the acronym all the time. But S is for sine. This O means opposite and hypotenuse. So the sine in this little symbol here is called theta. So that means you're just calling it a degree that you don't know. So like you can just say the degree I don't know. We're just calling it theta. For a sine is opposite of a hypotenuse. So what that would look like in a problem if you had a 90-degree triangle and you had a little theta symbol down here in the little corner down here, you would have the opposite angle, so opposite from here, and then the hypotenuse is always the one across from the 90-degree angle. So you put whatever the hypotenuse is on the denominator and the opposite on the top. So this is another example. And then cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So if we had a theta that we're just calling an unknown that we don't know here, and we want to know what the ratio is, we're looking for the hypotenuse to go on the denominator and the adjacent meaning what runs beside it or connects to it as the numerator. So there's another example. Your first question was talking about tangent. So tangent is the third one. Tangent of theta, or the unknown, is always opposite whatever the opposite side length is over whatever is adjacent. So same way here, this would be opposite. It's the opposite side from where the theta is, and then the adjacent is the one that's here. This is always the hypotenuse. We don't need to know anything about hypotenuse when we're talking about tangent. So you can write those down. Those are another cheat thing you need to have. Those written down, a little piece of paper. You'll see those on the test or quizzes or whatever. So this was your problem, and ask one of the first ones that ask you what the ratio of the ratio represents the tangent of angle ABC. So A was here. You read it as ABC. So that means this is what they're talking about. So we want to know what the tangent ratio is. Well, if this is our tangent, we've got to know opposite. So the opposite of this is 5. And then the adjacent, which runs here, can't be the other one because that's the hypotenuse, it's across from the 90-degree angle, is 12. And so our ratio is 5/12. Okay, so here's your problem that you had here. It asked you, gave you the side, it wanted to know what the measurement of angle A is to the nearest 10th degree. So we're going to call this angle A right here theta. So we know that this is the tangent because we know the opposite and we know the adjacent. So opposite and adjacent is always going to be the tangent. So tangent of theta. So you got to kind of know that. They're not always going to tell you that it's the tangent. They didn't in this one. So our opposite is 11.2 and our adjacent is 18.3. So we've got to find the tangent of this theta, which is 11.2 divided by 18.3, and run to the nearest 10th. So in your calculator, if you have a graphing calculator, and I hope you do, if you don't, you need to download out of FileWave, the little red little thing at the top of your MacBook. You can download the TI-84 in there, and it'll do the same thing. The biggest thing you have to know first is when you go into your graphing calculator, you have to know how to have it set up and put in. So I'm going to do a quick little show to show you. So you got to make sure your mode is set up. So if you click on your mode on your calculator and then make sure that it's over set to degree, that is most important. You got to have it set to degree. So make that sure that's done first. And you just hit the mode button and then scroll down and go over and hit enter. Then when you put this in, to solve for tangent, you actually in your calculator have to put in as the inverse of tangent to the -1. To do that, if you'll notice on your calculator, there are the sine, cosine, and tangent buttons. Right above those in blue are tan to the -1, cosine to -1, and sine to -1. To get those to work, you have to hit second. So you'll hit second tan, because we're trying to find the tangent, and the inverse to find out what the degree is. And we're going to put in, it's going to automatically give you parentheses, and we're going to put in our values. 11.2 divided by 18.3. Hit enter, and you automatically get 31.467, blah, blah, blah. And it asks you to round to the nearest 10th on your problem. So to the nearest 10th, obviously here is 4. You look next door, it's 5 or more. So it's 31.5 is your answer. On this one, they ask you what the value is of tangent of angle B. And so I just labeled this angle B as a tangent. We know it's opposite, so 8 over adjacent, 15. It's not asking you to find the degree, it's asking you to find the value. And it's just literally 8 divided by 15. Put that in your calculator, you get 0.53333, and that is an answer choice. Question number 2 says, what is the trigonometric ratio for angle A in the right triangle below? So I just kind of put a dot there for angle A, and these are your answer choices down here. I just wrote off your screen. So if we were doing sine of A, sine has to be opposite over hypotenuse. Well, the opposite of this is 8. Hypotenuse is 17. So that one's not right. Cosine has to be adjacent, so 15 over hypotenuse. Possibly could be. So let's look at tangent A. Tangent A has to be opposite over adjacent, which would be 15. So it can't be 8 over 17, and it can't be 15 over 8, because would have to be tangent of A would have to be 8 or 15. So then it has to be this one. All right, so on this one, I just labeled the triangle, and we put it into Pythagorean theorem. A squared, this is our A, this is our B, this is our C. A squared, so 5 square roots of 2 squared, plus B squared is equal to 2 square roots of 15 squared. Use your calculator. 5 square roots of 2 squared, you get 50, plus B squared equals 60. You want to solve for B. So minus 50, you get B squared is equal to 10. Then you want to find the square root of that. Now on this problem, it gives you the term in a square root. So these cancel, and you get B is equal to the square root of 10. Technically, it's plus or minus, but you have a negative side, so it's going to be square root of 10, and that's the one you had marked, so you already have that one done. All right, I don't see any other ones. If you get stuck again, or if you need some more help, but you got to know the formulas for sine, cosine, and tangent, and understand Pythagorean theorem. If you know those 2 general rules we talked about, that'll be helpful too.